Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? Can I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First 2 cards we are starting our day off with today are... we've got here the High Priestess in combination with Judgment in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy deep within divine union right now. A lot of this work that we see that is being navigated right now has to do with building into that pathwork of working through and assessing and recognizing and identifying what requires change, right? That ability of doing so right now, it's hard work. It's rigorous. We're seeing this here. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, a lot of that work that we see is happening has to do in the realm of building into what is required in order to move forward. It's taking that space of confidence. It's having that sense of insight. Now, for the energy deep within divine union right now, that sense of assessing, that sense of correcting, we see even now that for a lot of that energy doing that work, that sense of it's giving me a lot of that sense of like double checking to a certain extent. Like there's a lot of that type of energy here. Now for masculine and feminine energy deep within divine union, that is doing and continuing a lot of that process that we were seeing as it relates to identifying and recognizing the changes within the self that you're continuing to work through. Now, for masculine energy specifically, one of the things that we've been seeing is for masculine energy, a lot of this work has to do with recognizing and identifying what one needs to change within the self. And even here, this is so much of this work of correction, and I need to stress this now. Coming through these processes often brings forward a lot of those feelings of doubting oneself, right? Like that work of being able to doubt oneself, it can feel very difficult because that sense, and I need to stress this has a lot to do with that amplification of the Libra energy. Remember that what we were talking about in relationality to the fact that the Libra energy with the eclipse cycle created that sense of perfection, or that anxiety around fastidiousness or trying to navigate from those points of perfection. We're still very much coming out of that energetic cycle. So it's really important right now, and I need to stress this, not being too energetically hard on the self in the process of doing that work. Because that fastidiousness, right? That sense of self-correction, all of that work that we see that is happening here, it can create those modalities in the self where you begin to doubt the self, right? Because that's that moment that you start to question or you go through that inner process. This is what we call shadow work. This is what we call that introspection point. But one's own ability to navigate within those boundaries or going into that exploration of the self. This is why we see that the work right now of the energy within the counterparts feels like it is reaffirming, because what happens for the energy coming into divine union at this time is, and it's a little bit easier right now for the energy within divine union as opposed to the energy in separation, but we're going to talk about that sense or that space of being able to unpack, right? To go through that process, right? To even bring forth the parts of the self that one feels are more difficult to navigate. Like that sense of recognizing and identifying that coming into divine union does not require one to be perfect. It requires that sense of self-awareness to such an extent that you're identifying what it is that you're working upon. This is the affirmation of a lot of that energy coming into divine union right now, because this is the energy that is basically affirming and saying to one another, it's hard work. But we're not here because it's easy. We're here because we do it together. And so we see even now like that sense of being able to share that energetic rigor, right? That is what is amplifying a lot of the work right now of the energy coming into divine union. And I want to say that it's hard, right? Because for some of that energy, even here, we see that can feel like a very isolating journey, right? Because the journey of the self is one that always feels like there is something that we experience that is built upon or based upon a place of solitude. But that moment or that intentionality of being able to go forth, that is a lot of that intentionality that we see right now, because this is the pathwork of purpose that's basically doing its job. And so when we move forward with the pathwork of purpose to a certain extent, you can have those moments that feel like there's a sense or space of what it is that is within the self to change versus what is outside the self to change. The energy in divine union right now is committed on navigating those spaces and places together. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, I need to stress this even here. There's a lot of work right now that we're seeing that is recognizing and identifying and requiring one to trust the energetic process. Because even here we see that for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, that modality of like having a breakthrough point, recognizing and identifying, feeling that uncertainty of the self, right? This is more of that energy that is working. This is a lot of energy coming into divine union right now that is recognizing and identifying those aspects or limitations that may have previously prevented them from coming forth into divine union. I see it even now. There's a lot of energy here that is potentially moving forward towards counterpart energy and potentially looking at something and saying, I've never energetically come this far before. But when they say that they've never energetically come this far before, what they're effectively articulating, what they're effectively meaning is that sense of energetic clarity in trusting the self and trusting the process by which they are entering into divine union. Right? Because if these are those experiences that we're seeing even now, feminine learning how to trust masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine learning to articulate through and emotionally express to feminine. Even here we see that so much of that energy working through that process. This is that moment that gets that sense of security and sense of anxiety, because these are the energies that articulate through the anxiety point as opposed to reacting to them, right? So even here we see that this is heavy energetic work, but it is vital and it is important. Now, let's talk a little bit about the energy in separation right now, because I see even now that for the energy in separation, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of heaviness that we're seeing even now. And there's a lot of, I want to say, energetic isolation that may be occurring. And so to the energy right now in separation, one of the affirmations I really want to articulate is remembering that you're not energetically alone. Because I'm just seeing even now that for a lot of that energy navigating forward in that way, we see even here that so much of that work that is occurring here is allowing for that space of affirmation and trusting one's own intuition. For feminine right now, a lot of this work in separation, and I'm seeing it even here. I want to say there's frustration for energy of feminine in separation right now, but I also am identifying that if these are modalities or moments where feminine is staying very focused on their own manifestation goals and someone's trying to come towards them from a place of reconsideration, this is a lot of the feminine energy that is doing that work in terms of identifying and recognizing the sense or the space of building forth with someone in a space where you acknowledge and identify what those mutual problems are, versus those spaces and places that we see that a lot of the feminine energy and separation is navigating right now, that is feeling like that relief or that release as it relates to being able to identify and articulate what those problems are. Because I see even now, like even with some of these new energetic connections that are forming, there's that clarity, right? There's that identification point on what wasn't serving that is helping to amplify here. Now, for masculine energy and separation right now, a lot of this work that we are seeing and I'm seeing it even here. A lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, both of these mutual energies, not necessarily in a space where they're identifying or focusing or prioritizing on partnership, but there's a lot of assessment I'm seeing in recognizing and identifying what one feels that one could change if you could versus what you recognize and affirm that you have. And so for a lot of that masculine energy here, I see even now that some of those new energetic connections that are forming, they're coming from that space of vitality. They're coming from that space of energetic rigor. They're coming from that space of prioritization. And a lot of that prioritization point that we're seeing right now is at the heart of identifying and recognizing what feels like it is integral and vital at this moment. Middle card for today's spread is, we have here our Queen of Swords in its upright. So a lot of strong feminine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. I have to say even now that for I got a lot of feminine energy right now in separation. There's a lot of this strength that I'm seeing here. There's a lot of this resilience. There's a lot of this work, and I see even now a lot of feminine energy in separation leading towards other feminine energy at this time. Like, this is just a lot of strength and security that I'm identifying that is occurring in these modalities right now. And that sense or that space of doing that work, this is the energy of feminine in separation that I see even now. And this is why if there's energy trying to come towards feminine at a point that the feminine's in separation, this is the feminine energy that's continuing to do that work in terms of identifying and articulating what feels like it's in that space or place of being able to change, what feels like it can actually heal, versus that energetic sense of someone trying to come into a point of modification in order to facilitate being able to maintain an energetic connection with feminine. This is more of that Libra energy. I'm telling you even now, this Libra energy coming out of this space with the eclipse is like a doozy, right? And I have to stress this because that sense or that space, I need to say this right now, feminine energy is looking at things in separation with a very critical eye, right? Because even within this context, and I have to say this even now, feminine energy, and I'm seeing this is either coming both in terms of new energetic connections coming towards feminine at this time, but also as it relates to old energetic connections. Feminine energy has changed to such a degree here that we see that a lot of the feminine energy in separation is navigating and utilizing that sense of moving towards one's highest sense of self. So not necessarily being triggered, but just being very energetically observant. And so what that's allowing right now for a lot of the feminine energy in that modality is potentially looking back on past circumstances or past situations with a renewed sense of clarity and even affirmation here. And I feel even now that for a lot of the feminine energy and separation, there's a lot of that sense of breakthrough and purpose that's occurring. And a lot of it is coming in relationality to alignment towards one's own manifestation goals. And that ability of doing so is what is allowing either, again, and this is where we're seeing a little bit of this segmentation right now for the energy and separation, that ability of observing what feels like it's energetically changed versus what feels like it is too similar to the past. Now, masculine energy in separation right now, so much of this work that I'm seeing right now for the masculine energy in separation, I see even now, this is masculine energy in separation that is also going through some deep process of reconsideration of the self. But I want to stress this. It's a reconsideration of the self and a renewed vitality of what one identifies strength to be. Because we're seeing even now that if this is masculine energy in separation that is learning how to feel in such a way, but being able to be open and clear as to those feelings, that recognition point of what it takes to be able to feel one's own emotionality and be strong throughout it. All I keep seeing here is that deep degree of appreciation towards feminine in that way. Because this is, again, a lot of that, this is a lot of masculine energy right now I want to say that invested appreciation towards feminine. Or we're seeing here that this is masculine energy right now that is really, and I want to say this, like coming into that space or place of identifying what that looks like or what that strength is. So I appreciate so much of this energy here because it's a reprioritization process that is allowing for a sense of recognition between what feels like it is important, right, versus what feels like it is immaterial. And so when we see something here about the recognition of what feels like it's immaterial versus what feels like it's important, I can see even now that this is either energy that's moving forward with a sense of like conviction and determination, but there is potentially some kind of argumentation that may be occurring right now for some energy in separation. And this is going to bring us to the energy trying to come into divine union at this time, because so much of this is based and bearing upon that sense or that space of what feels like is what feels like it is something that you are holding on to that now feels like it wasn't necessary or important, right? Like almost coming into that space of feeling like that identification of wanting to like modify or mollify something that feels like it was nonsensical, versus that sense of really affirming and prioritizing the important points. And this is very important for the energy coming into divine union right now, right? Because one of the things, what did we see was happening right now for a lot of the energy coming into divine union? We were recognizing and identifying that for a lot of that energy coming into divine union at this time, that argumentation point, if you will, between somebody seeing what feels like it is vital, right, versus someone saying something doesn't matter, like that sense or space, that is foundational, right? Because that ability of identifying the difference between what feels like it's important versus someone who feels like it's immaterial, like that sense, like that's a lot of that Libra balance that we were talking about coming through right now. And so we see even now that some of the energy trying to come into divine union at this time, I see even now, like that's why I keep hearing it's like it feels like the splitting of, they're saying to me, it's like the splitting of hairs that feels like it's the hair that breaks the camel's back, because that modality of importance or significance, right, working into that space. If this is an observational point where someone is articulating that there's an issue in the relationship that is important, that is vital to work through, and someone is observing that it's not there, right? And someone is moving forward from a point of saying, this is not negotiable. This is a priority. We see even now that for a lot of that energy moving forward in that way, like that is why so much of this energy is either coming into that breakthrough point and moving into divine union at this time, in recognizing and sharing the same reality, in being able to do that work. While some of these fracture points here, I see that they feel that they're very important and big because they feel so fundamental, right? And so we see even now, like that's that modality of saying to oneself, you can't work in that context of articulating and saying that you identify work that needs to be done if you don't energetically feel it. You have to recognize it as well. Fourth and fifth cards of our 5-card spread, before we start getting clarity, we've got a couple of cards coming out. We're going to take the top two, is between our Hangman in its reversal in combination with our 4 of Cups in its upright here. So for masculine and feminine energy deep within divine union, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is not, I want to say, even here, this is the energy that's in alignment, that's both recognizing and identifying the energetic hurdles. And this is the energy kind of feeling it as well. Like this is just a lot of that work that I see. And a lot of that work right now for the energy deep within divine union is recognizing and prioritizing what those choices are going forward. This is more of that same energy that we're seeing in relationality to prioritizing and putting time towards things. So we see even now that for feminine energy in that experience, that state or that space of being able to utilize that point of energetic discernment, having to navigate through that right now, it's difficult, right? I can see it even now, and it's harder for the feminine to do, because for a lot of this feminine energy right now, maintaining and holding those energetic boundaries, this is where I see that a lot of the feminine energy has been working on their own sense of confidence to a certain extent. For masculine at this time, so much of this work that we're seeing right now, it has to do effectively with that sense of, I want to say, supporting the feminine energy and trusting in that energetic process. Because for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now, that point or that amplification that we see that is happening, it's requiring, like, this is prioritization of masculine to such a degree where it feels more like the masculine energy is feeling frustrated because of their lack of energetic time. Now, for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, so much of this work that we're seeing, I just want to say, I see it even now. There's frustration points. There's frustration points that are arriving here. There's moments of feeling frustration. And I have to say even now that what feels like a breakthrough here for a lot of the energy coming into divine union is that moment of feeling energetically frustrated, but then being able to persevere through it, right? Being able to navigate, being able to articulate through it. This is what I see even now. Like, this is why I see even now that for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, this is that, that frustration point that feels like it's a breakthrough, because specifically you're not moving away from discomfort. You're not moving away from something that feels like it's energetically uncomfortable. Instead, you're just kind of pushing through it to a certain extent. And so I see even now that for a lot of that work of the energy coming into divine union, that is the observational recognition point of the messiness of that experience, right? Of the understanding of what it takes to be able to maintain that energetic connection. Because I see even now that a lot of that energy right now is amplifying and prioritizing those choices in relationality to partnership. And that is a lot of the adjustment point that I see that is happening right now for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, is prioritizing the partnership, or prioritizing the energy required to build into the partnership. And so even here we see that so much of that work that's occurring, it's not easy, right? It requires modification. It requires calibration. And so I see even now for masculine, this is feeling very much like a clumsy process, right? This is feeling very clumsy for masculine doing this work with the feminine right now. But again, that ability of recognizing energetic clumsiness is integral and necessary in order to get good at something, right? So we see even now that this is a lot of the energy of the masculine that's almost saying to the feminine, forgive me if I'm being clumsy right now as I'm learning how to do something. While for feminine, this is a lot of the work of the feminine that's coming into divine union right now that is building upon and based upon a point of patience, right? And the important thing, the vital thing to recognize in a lot of this path work here is this is the energy that says, as long as we are prioritizing, as long as we're doing the work together, feminine's almost saying to masculine coming into divine union, you can be as clumsy as you want, so long as we're doing the same thing. Right? And feminine is experiencing and utilizing a profound amount of patience in the process of navigating that, right? So I'm telling you even here, like this is that breakthrough that we're seeing again, right? Because this is the energy that's saying, like, as long as you show, like, again, as long as you show an ability of navigating forth and having the same aspirations, this is the energy that says and feels that sense of, like, I want to say the feminine coming into the enduring patience for the masculine counterpart that prioritizes the energetic connection above all. And this is masculine that is feeling the safety and security of learning along the way with a feminine that works to protect the masculine as they proceed forward on that journey. Which is why we see even now that for a lot of that energy and separation, this is foundational. And this is why we see so much of that energy and separation potentially feeling frustrated, because this is the energy right now in separation, both masculine and feminine, that are feeling that need or that desire of being able to find the energetic counterpart that knows and recognizes how to prioritize energetic connection, and understanding that that's not just something that you say, right? It's not just something that that you articulate you desire, but it's something that you move fastidiously towards, right? You do that energetic work. You navigate to those points of rigor. And so I see even now that there are some potential new energetic connections that are occurring right now. And this is where I see a lot of this energy in separation that's starting to feel very similar to the energy that's coming into divine union. Because this is a lot of the feminine energy in separation that's maintaining and holding that energetic standard in relationality to looking towards masculine, that understands and recognizes that the aspiration of divine union isn't something that can just be given wordplay towards. It must show an ability and a recognition point of being able to navigate choices that feel that sense of prioritizing the energetic connection. So I see even now, this could be a lot of feminine energy in separation, having conversations with masculine. I want to say, like, trying to understand the cause or the reasons for coming out of partnership in the past. You know? I see it even now. Because I see even now, like, there's a lot of that energy that is trying to utilize a discernment point from masculine energy that moves away from things just when they become uncomfortable, versus the need or the necessity to be able to work through energetic difficulties. And I see for masculine's part right now, a lot of the masculine energy is also in that same modality coming towards feminine. This is masculine energy very much in alignment right now with feminine in separation, because this is a lot of that masculine energy that I almost see coming towards feminine in such a way of being very open and honest. I told you that emotional vulnerability. And what I appreciate about some of this energy that I'm seeing in separation is this is the energy of the masculine saying, I know I don't have to be perfect to come towards you. I recognize that I need to identify and understand what it is that I'm working on. Right? So these are like, literally, it's giving me the energy in separation that fully understands the assignment to a certain extent. And that's a positive. I want to say that's a positive as it relates to the energy coming into a point of healing, right? Because these are not, I need to stress this, these are not energies in separation that are putting up any kind of, I want to say, false sense of self. They're being very open and upfront in those processes. Continuing to get clarification between our High Priestess in its upright in combination with our Judgment card in its reversal. Oh, may I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Strength card in its reversal. A lot of vulnerability that we're recognizing and seeing as it relates to energetic connections at this time. And I feel even now, you know, there's a lot of empathy that's occurring right now for the energy in separation. And it's giving me, like I told you, it's like that feeling of like a lotness, you know, like being able to come into that space of being able to articulate how you're feeling energetically vulnerable. And I see even now a lot of the masculine energy in separation coming towards feminine, I want to say, with a little bit of that fastidiousness. Like it's giving me a little bit of that energy of like someone doing like a checkup, like almost someone being like, do you have everything? Are you okay? How are you doing right now? Like it's giving me a lot of that type of energy here. Because a lot of that, I want to say, there's a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Like, it feels like the type of energy that's like, it's like they got their hands full, but they're like, can I grab you anything on the way? You know what I mean? Like, I'm passing that way, anyway, do you need anything? Like, it's giving me a lot of that type of energy to a certain extent. So we see even now that for a lot of that, and a lot of that space, like I kind of have that sense of, it feels, I want to say, it feels like a lot of these energetic connections that are forming right now, they're cathartic. They're allowing for that space of being able to just vent. And for feminine, some of that, it feels more like that feminine energy in a space of energetic stability to a certain extent. Like there's a lot of that feminine that's like very much in a state of I want to say, prioritization and holding those energetic standards. For masculine, there's a lot more emotionality that's occurring here. But there's vulnerability where I see a lot of new energetic connections are forming. And in that process, I want to say that, and I want to say even again, like I'm seeing a lot of deep friendships that are occurring prior to deepening partnerships. And that's really important here too as well, because I almost see some energy in separation saying we're meeting under like the less than ideal circumstances. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is just raw. Like this is like, this is a lot of energy coming into that space of looking at the past with a deepening sense of clarity. Because particularly and especially if these are energies that are moving towards one another and having those breakthroughs, that ability to articulate upon one another and being able to share what those journeys are, I just see like there's a profound amount of intimacy that's evolving right now for a lot of the energy coming into divine union. Because again, and it is coming from the feminine kind of saying to masculine, like, I'm learning to be energetically stronger. In the past, I might have been more vulnerable, but this is feminine almost saying like, I recognize and identify like my own sense, I want to say, of the feminine coming towards masculine is one that's articulating, that sense of the feminine following their own standards and saying to themselves, like, I know that as long as we are doing this together, if it's messy, it probably means that we're doing it right? Because that's the energy that says it doesn't have to be, it's not going to feel like it's clean in the process of building together. It always feels energetically messy. And this is almost some of the feminine energy coming into divine union that is learning to release their own feeling or their own need of perfection. Like that's what's really interesting about this here. For a lot of the energy of feminine coming into divine union, that energy is almost recognizing and saying, I didn't picture that it would be this way, but this is the way it is. Like I just see this here, like that feminine energy coming into that state of accepting the messiness of something, but also in the process of accepting the messiness, accepting their own messiness to a certain extent, right? Like that's really beautiful energy that I see that's happening right now for the energy coming into divine union. For masculine, I see even now like that motion or that same space of unpacking is a lot of the masculine saying it's a relief and a release not to be in a space where I feel like I need to be energetically perfect. I just need to prioritize. So we see even now that these are the energies that are really like, they're taking new approaches to solving problems. And in the process of taking those new approaches to solving problems, they're having breakthroughs along the way. While for masculine, and continuing to get clarification points on these cards right now, between our Judgment card in its reversal, in combination with our Queen of Swords in its upright, can I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Cups in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within divine union, this is giving me a lot of this like keep calm and carry on kind of energy here. This is the energy that's like working very hard on navigating from a place of energetic balance. And I have to say this right now. I need to stress this. In some moments, in some experiences, being able to just navigate from a place of energetic balance is such a beautiful gift. It is the gift that we give to those around us, right? Like that ability of maintaining that point of energetic balance. And so what we're recognizing and identifying for a lot of the energy deep within divine union, that sense or that space, like this is why we talk about the energy in divine union being in such a space that they create their own alchemy. Because like when everything else around you feels like it's falling apart and you work in unison with an energetic counterpart, and your conviction is to take no matter what those difficulties or hurdles are and create that sense of balance, right? When you commit on that path work together, that is like the bond that cannot be broken, because that is the energy that does not do so. You understand? It doesn't do so because the timing is right or because the setting is ideal. They do so because they make that conscientious choice between themselves to prioritize taking no matter what occurs and making that point of harmony. So we see even now like a lot of that energy building forth and really maintaining and feeling the energetic support of that bond in the process. And for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, that ability of recognizing, of identifying, of prioritizing that work. And if it feels messy, you're probably doing it right. And if it feels hard, you're probably doing it right as well, because this is the energy that is starting to prioritize the navigation point of the maintaining the energetic connection come what may. And that's the work of the self, right? And we see even now, like this is the message that those energies are providing one another as they come into divine union, right? This is the feminine saying to masculine, so long as we are both prioritizing the partnership, I will have enduring patience for you learning as you go, right? This is the energy of the feminine saying, so long as you're prioritizing, it doesn't matter if you're slow, right? That's the energy. That's the energy of feminine saying to masculine, so long as you're prioritizing, it doesn't matter if you're slow. It doesn't matter, where like, as long as that's the energetic priority. This is almost a feminine saying, I'm happy to slow down for you, right? Like this is what the energy of the feminine saying, and this is the feminine saying, I will learn to have enduring patience. So long as we are prioritizing and we're moving towards the same energetic goals. And this is masculine that comes into that space of feeling the security and the stability of the feminine that recognizes and identifies and says, I understand that I might be learning. I might be awkward in that process. I might have those moments where I stumble, but as long as we're moving towards the same direction, like these are those energies that feel the value and the prioritization point of the connection, because this is the masculine that feels that sense of being able to be their messy self before a feminine that is patient. And I need to stress this. Okay? This is not the context through which the masculine says, oh, this is the feminine that accepts me under any circumstances, that no matter how many times I mess up, the feminine's going to effectively be there. This isn't the masculine energy showing. You understand this? This is not masculine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This isn't masculine energy showing up messy to the door of the feminine. This is the masculine energy that works on that sense and saying, I prioritize the partnership and recognizing that I might be messy in the process of learning how to energetically prioritize the partnership. But that's not a space of the masculine energy fumbling the prioritization of the partnership. That is the energy of the masculine that is learning how to better be themselves in the process of preserving the energetic partnership. And so we see even now that that is the patience of the feminine that's maintaining those energetic standards, which is why we see even now for a lot of the energy in separation, this could be the articulation point in trying to say to someone or building into a new energetic connection of feminine and masculine explaining themselves as it relates to past energetic connections, right? I can almost see feminine right now articulating masculine and saying, recognize that I'm extremely patient. I'm extremely protective as long as there's a feeling that we're prioritizing the same thing, right? And this is masculine that is basically saying the same thing, which is, again, I am comfortable being my most authentic self, understanding that I'm in the process of learning, but recognizing and identifying the importance and the value of a feminine that also recognizes and is patient with me, right? Now I need to stress this, okay? Because when I say patience here, I don't mean patient as in like messy. I mean patient in someone who's trying to learn a process, right? There's messiness and then there's messiness, okay? So we see even now that that is a lot of the energy right now, building and forging new energetic connections by articulating the difference, right, between what was experienced in the past versus what it is that they're energetically seeking. And I see even now that for some of this energy right now, building into those new energetic unions, I can see even now like some of that energy saying, yeah, I know it sounds like it's small, but it was important, right? Because I told you a lot of energy falling out of separation right now that felt like they were about to come into divine union. And a lot of it had to do potentially with circumstances or experiences wherein someone was trying to identify a problem and another person was saying, I don't see that as a problem. And that being the reason or the cause of separation, someone saying, I know it sounds small, but it's vital. And this is a lot of the energy in separation going, no, I know exactly what you mean. Because that's that moment, if you identify that something's a problem and someone says it's not there, that's that moment that feels like it's a breakage point, and that the fact is that you're in different realities, right? Like that, and that point or that space or existing in different energetic realities, that's the energy that says, you know, I had to potentially move away from an energetic connection because I recognized that we weren't moving towards the same ideal, right? Like we saw that some of that energy was experiencing that modality of someone feeling like they'd reached that manifestation goal, modality of someone feeling like they'd reached that manifestation goal, and another person saying or identifying and saying, no, this is not the comfortability point. This is something that requires change. So we see even now that this is a lot of that energy that is being very specific in relationality to what it is that they want in the process. Because this is a lot of the energy right now, potentially in separation, that experience the lesson that someone can articulate that they desire something, but they might not necessarily have the ability of putting the work towards it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Swords in its upright in combination with our Hangman in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Cups in its reversal. This is a lot. I want to tell you right now, there's a lot of energy right now. A lot of energy right now in separation that is being very, I want to say like being very specific, being very energetically specific in relationality to what they're looking for. And I need to stress this fastidiousness, right? This fastidiousness that we are seeing here. This is I want to stress, like this fastidiousness is a lot of this energy building into new energetic connections and really trying to articulate, because I just keep seeing here and this is why I can see so much of the energy in separation just feeling like really frustrated. Because I see some energy being like someone in separation being like they wanted it but they didn't get it. right? Like they wanted it, but they didn't get it. And you know what I mean? What I mean when I say they wanted it, but they didn't get it, meaning they did what the desire to aspire for something needs to be matched with an ability to move in the directionality of doing the things that are required in order to maintain something, right? And so this is a lot of that energy speaking in like within the confines of like new energetic partnerships in terms of talking about, you know, the rigor that's required to maintain an energetic connection. That sense that like when we build an energetic connection with someone, it's not just something that we do because it feels easy or because it feels good, right? It's something that we prioritize even when it gets difficult. And so for a lot of this energy right now in separation, I can see why there's so much of this like articulation point that's occurring there, because this is the energetic difference I'm seeing between the energy saying, listen, recognize that that's not a modality of someone saying, like that is the energy I'm seeing even now, the difference between someone moving away from something just because something got hard versus the recognition point or the feeling that you were not prioritizing the same things. So I see even now that there's a lot of that energy in separation, trying to put, and this is masculine and feminine energy very much in alignment right now, in separation, doing this work, really trying to articulate the difference between, you know, feeling that sense of frustration and then just departing when things got difficult versus that sense of recognizing or identifying or trying to work on something, but identifying and remembering that you both need to be working on the same thing in order to facilitate working on it. You know, so I see a lot of the energy right now, like in separation going, no, I completely know what you mean. You cannot work on something if someone does not recognize that there's a problem there. Like, you know, because there's a lot of that energy doing that work right now. And I see even now, like there's something about those connections that are happening at this point that feel like, I feel like there's a bit of some energy coming into separation, like in separation, building into partnership, saying, oh, you get it. Like you understand, like you understand what I mean to a certain extent. And so even there, what's interesting about it is I almost have that energy saying like, it's hard to put into words. And I see someone being like, no, I understand what you mean. It's important because what it really indicates is the prioritization point in terms of someone saying, I recognize something that was occurring where it felt like we were not prioritizing the same things. Continuing to get clarification between our hangman in its reversal in combination with our Four of Cups in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Pentacles in its upright. So masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. I feel like there's a lot of like, I need to stress this. This is heavy, but there's security here. I see that there's a lot of energy that feels very secure in their energetic decisions right now. And I think that that's really valuable and important, right? Because I told you, for a lot of that, and especially, I need to stress this, especially for feminine right now. Because that sense, I gotta say, feminine, and bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine, your own ability of like reassessing, like self-correcting, if you will, doubling back on yourself. Like I see a lot of that energy of the feminine that is very hard on themselves in the process of doing that work, specifically and particularly, because this is a lot of that feminine energy that I want to say when feminine comes into a space where they feel like they've done something energetically wrong, they'll be the first one to like take that accountability on themselves in the process. So I almost see feminine energy in separation, like unpacking things, not only to new energetic connections of counterpart, but also to other feminine energy, looking like fact checking. I see the feminine energy like literally fact checking right now in separation, like saying, can you check my homework here? Can you make sure if I missed something? Can you tell me if I saw something here that I like, this is literally feminine energy that is doing that process of even looking back on past experiences and sharing them towards other feminine energy and new energetic connections. And we see even now, this is the feminine getting a lot of that support to a certain extent, of the feminine being like, no, I see it. Like this is a feminine energy being like, no, I see it. Like, and that's what's beautiful here, because we see even now that that's a lot of that energy, feeling, and I need to stress this, feeling frustrated, but feeling validated in their frustration. Right? Those are like, that's important. Being validated in frustration is important, because it's that sense of being like, no, it's a valid reason to be frustrated. While for masculine energy here, and the thing is, I see this as even feminine coming towards new masculine energy with that same observation point. And I can almost see masculine saying to feminine, no, it seems to me what you're saying would indicate someone that doesn't necessarily have the capability of strength, like the capability of strength of understanding that it's not just enough to desire something. You have to be able to hold it up. You have to be able to know how to do it. It's not just enough to say, that you desire something. You need to be in that pathwork of understanding the strength it takes to energetically prioritize it. And so I see even now that there's a lot of the masculine energy in separation. And I got to stress this. And this is what I think is really beautiful for some of the masculine energy coming towards feminine right now. I see almost a lot of masculine energy looking towards feminine and saying, no, I'm telling you that what you're saying is right, because I used to be like that in the past. I just see a lot of masculine energy right now being incredibly open and honest towards feminine about their energetic journeys. I have to stress this right now. And this is what I think is really beautiful about this, because I see even now that this is masculine coming towards feminine, not trying to come into that guise of perfection, right? This isn't the masculine trying to put a false front towards feminine. This is masculine almost saying to feminine, no, I understand. I used to be afraid like that. I used to have that. When I was less strong, look, this is masculine right now. This is masculine in separation saying, no, I used to do that too when I was less strong. Right? And so we see even now that there's a lot of those energetic connections right now that are being fortified, like a lot of new energetic connections right now, coming in, like in separation. And they're coming from that security and stabilization of articulating upon those past experiences. And either, like masculine, I want to say masculine coming towards feminine from a place of, like, I want to say vulnerability, but deep to awareness. And again, this is where we see the same lesson that's coming through. I told you this eclipse energy, all the messages tend to move through the frequencies more quickly. The same message, which is, again, what's happening for the energy coming into divine union. As long as we're feminine saying to masculine, as long as we're moving, as long as we're prioritizing the same things, my patience is endless, right? Because that is the feminine energy that moves into the patience that is endless, because that is the feminine energy that feels like that expansion of care of someone trying to learn something. Right? But again, and this is why the feminine energy is in that modality of being very taught here, right? Because it's taught, they're saying TAUT, but also TAUGHT here, because it is the feeling or the sense of being taught, which is, as long as you're paying attention, as long as you're prioritizing the same things, that patience, that's the patience of someone that's learning how to do something, but not the energetic patience for someone that is getting careless and not prioritizing that path work. Do you see how this Libra energy is coming through right now in the fine line between the patience, and this is the feminine saying to masculine, as long as we're prioritizing the same things, my patience is endless, but only in the place where we're coming into recognizing and understanding that we're doing that energetic work together, right? And this is the masculine saying to feminine, I would never put that work upon you. I'm not asking you to do the work for me. I'm asking you to be patient as I learn, right? So we see even now, like that's a lot of that energy coming into divine union. And and it's beautiful because this is the patience that occurs when the feminine sees the masculine learning to do something in a way that is clumsy and difficult, but also amplifies the fact that they are invested in learning how to do something, right? And this is the masculine that feels the safety and security of being messy, right? But being messy, not just being like messy, but being messy as you learn something. And the profound patience of the feminine that creates for you, that feels like those supportive, tender arms of love, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Strength card in its reversal in combination with our Two of Cups in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our King of Cups in its reversal. Oh, look at these energies today. Look at these energies today. It's a lot. Look at this. Do you see? This is hard work. This is hard work. Feminine, working very hard to be energetically strong right now, right? Working very hard. This is a lot of that same mantra that we saw that was coming through, like throughout this whole month, right? What has the feminine been saying? I am getting stronger every day, right? And this is masculine saying, I am learning that my emotions are not separate from being myself. They are a part. I don't need to push the emotions away. I need to feel the emotions to be healed. So both of these energies right now, it's hard work. It's painful. Like it feels it's difficult, right? Because we see even now that like for feminine energy, that ability of maintaining those energetic standards, it's the feminine coming more into that state or that space of feeling secure in that, like in their own, like trusting their own judgment in the process, right? And this is masculine that's learning to be in more connection with their emotionality, and also feeling that sense of not allowing the emotions to overwhelm, feeling that sense or that space of reminding themselves that it is safe to feel emotions, that you don't need to react to the emotions. You just need to allow those spaces or places of like allowing yourself to just experience them. And so we see even now that these are the energies. Look at this harmony here that we have in these combinations of cards. What is binding these two energies together right now? They heal in the process. They do what feels that counterintuitive to them, and in the process of doing so, they heal. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is feeling that sense or that space of being, reaffirmed in that work in the process of doing it. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is the energy coming into divine union going, I never expected it would be like this. They don't talk about this in the storybooks. They just say that things are going to be like they came together and and we're done. Close the curtain, right? But no, that's where the work begins, right? Like that's where the work begins. So we see even now that emotional unpacking, going through that energetic process, coming into that messy space of identifying and recognizing, what it feels like, not just to come towards the accomplishment of coming into partnership, but really like that messiness that occurs in relationality to maintaining it. Feminine, building into that space of navigating from a place of one's own boundaries, right? This is feminine creating that sense of safety and security, as masculine's also doing that work. Masculine working through the emotional space, feeling that intensity of the emotions and learning how to calibrate through it instead of reacting to it. Feminine coming into that space of working into that place of energetic strength, right? Utilizing that path work of stability for the masculine that's experiencing such. These are the energies that are finding harmony in that process, but it's messy. It's messy, right? It's not ideal. It's messy because this is the energy that is able to take those difficulty points and create a point of balance within them. And it's all, and I have to stress this is not the feminine energy having that perpetual, forever patience for masculine that doesn't prioritize partnership. This is the feminine energy that is able to come into that space of power and patience, because the stabilization point is seeing the masculine that articulates through their clumsiness that they are focused on the same work. This is the energy that says we know the work that we're setting out to do together. It's hard, but we're doing it together, right? And this is why a lot of this energy right now, new energetic connections that are forming in separation. I see even now feminine more frustrated, masculine more emotional in separation right now, right? Because for feminine, this feels, I almost see a lot of the feminine energy having to say to masculine or new masculine connection, saying, it's not that I'm not patient, but I feel like there's a difference between being patient for someone who identifies a priority versus someone who I'm waiting to figure out what their priorities are, right? Like that is what I'm seeing here. That is really identifying and articulating the feminine in separation, saying my patience does not extend to someone that does not identify what prioritization is, right? And this is why we see a lot of the masculine energy in that modality, recognizing and saying to the feminine, like and I have to stress this right now, like I see a lot of masculine energy in separation, having a feminine energy articulate such. I can almost see the masculine feeling that emotional overwhelm, because this is a masculine energy that looks towards the feminine and says, I see that this is someone who doesn't just articulate the fact that they know they desire something and they aren't able to maintain it. This is the masculine looks towards feminine and says, this is a feminine energy that holds those energetic standards, right? And I can see even a lot of the masculine energy potentially coming into connection with feminine in that way. And feeling, I want to say, like feeling very emotional in the process, because this is a masculine that looks towards feminine and says, you seem like someone who's very strong. But I need to say this right now. When masculine says that to feminine and their heart space is open, that is like the highest compliment to masculine, to feminine, right? Because that is a masculine energy that says, I'm looking for feminine energy that is strong. I'm looking for feminine energy. Like, this is why it's so important for masculine to come into a space of healing. Because when the masculine energy comes into a space of healing, why wouldn't you not desire a strong partner? Why would you not desire a strong energetic partner? So we see even now, like a lot of that energy of masculine and feminine coming together. I see even now, like there's a lot of release and relief that's potentially coming through right now, and some new energetic connections that are forming, because they're seeing some qualities and characteristics in one another that I even identify here. They like, I can see the feminine being a little tight-lipped about seeing this from the masculine that's coming from a place of like emotionality, because this is the feminine energy that's like doesn't want to get their hopes up, right? And this is the masculine that's coming towards feminine from a place of authenticity. And I just see even now, like there's a moment of deep vulnerability here where there's some sparks that are flying. But a lot of it is coming through right now. I have to say, like, these are just incredibly vulnerable, authentic connections. Because these are the energies that are looking for someone that is capable of doing the work required to maintain a manifestation goal. And that's what we're seeing even now for the energy coming into divine union. This is the energy that's basically saying that type of work isn't for the weak, right? And that's why the energy right now of feminine is re-articulating and reaffirming to themselves and saying, I am getting stronger every day. And that's the masculine that's doing that work and saying, I am safe in the framework of my emotions. It is safe to feel my emotions. I don't have to suppress my emotions. So long as I can articulate through them and not react to them, then I am safe in experiencing them. So we see even now that these are the energies that are coming into that point of profound healing in the process. It's messy, right? Masculines learning how to articulate upon their emotions, or learning that it's safe to speak towards them. And what is the feminine saying in that modality to masculine? As long as you prioritize, as long as we have the same energetic priorities, you're safe to be whoever you need to be in the process of coming towards them, right? Like, this is that energy that is coming into that space, and they're learning to trust one another in the process. And for the energy deep within divine union, you know, this is a lot of that. This is that reaffirmation of energetic strength and support, and saying to one another, like, this is masculine looking towards feminine, deep within divine union, and saying, you know, I'm extremely proud of you. I see how strong you are. And this is feminine looking towards masculine and saying, I know how hard it is for you to express your emotionality. It's such a gift that you give that to me. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 2 of Cups in its upright in combination with our 7 of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, look at this. We love to see this card right now. We've got here our Ace of Cups in its upright. This is beautiful because this is a lot of energetic healing that I see is effectively occurring right now. And so even in, I need to stress this, even in this process, for the energy deep within divine union, you know, what do we see that is happening right now for so much of that energy deep within divine union? What is the overarching message? We're all doing the best that we can. We're doing the best that we can, and we're trying to help in whatever way that we can help. So we see even now that these are the energies deep within divine union that navigate, right? Like, navigate those spaces and places of difficulty with a heart full of compassion, with a heart full of gratitude, with a heart full of energetic healing. And this is even why, even now, I told you that ability of trying to maintain energetic balance. This is why even in the space of holding that place of trying to maintain energetic balance, there's a profound degree of compassion that's occurring in that process, because this is the energy that looks towards the energy that's able to maintain balance with a sense of profound appreciation, because that feeling of energetic normalcy, right? That gift that we create for ourselves in building into that framework of balance, that is the compassionate gift we provide to one another, because that is the context through which we feel safe, seen, and supported. So what are these energies doing right now within divine union? They work on the energetic self, right? Even when they feel less than whole, even when they feel less than ideal, right? You know, there's a lot to be said between faking it until you make it. I want you to think instead, feel it until you heal it, right? It's not faking it until you make it. It's feeling it until you heal it. Because sometimes on those days when that's the hardest thing to energetically do, when everything about what you're trying to do feels like it's hard, when you push forward, when you try to maintain that energetic balance, when you put that bar before yourself and say, I am going to reach that bar, and if I'm not even going to do it for myself, I'm going to do it for the love and the compassion and the courtesy of all of those around me. That ability of being able to feel it until you heal it works. Like, it creates that space. It creates that balance point, right? And these are the energies within divine union that continually give each other the gift of that balance point, and especially on the days when they don't feel it, that's when they try even harder, because it's not just the fact that they're doing it for the self, they're doing it to create that context of support for those around them. That is where the love, that is where the light gets in. Now, for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is the energy that's learning that process, right? This is the energy that's coming into that space and feeling that frustration. I can even hear those energies going, I should made this, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. I should just go back. What if this whole thing falls apart? And this is the energy that goes, stop. There's the abandonment wound. There it is. There's that little voice. There's that little voice within you. And that's the energy right now I see coming into divine union going, why are you trying to move away from what you know is good for you? Like, there's a lot of this energy going. I can see it even now. There's a lot of energy right now coming into divine union. I mean, the card's not out here. I'm sure it's going to like pushing up against that, like working through some of that unprocessed trauma, right? Right? This is a lot of the feminine energy coming into divine union going, maybe this is too good to be true. This must be too good to be true. Maybe this is a trick. Maybe what if this energy, like all these, and the feminine's going, what's feminine doing to themselves? They're going, shh, be quiet. Like, look, you see this? You see the highest version of self of the feminine going, be quiet. Don't overstress. What are you doing? Don't make problems where energetic problems don't exist. Don't let that past version of self feed into. Don't let all of those fears amplify and magnetize to a point that you don't come into a point of energetic appreciation. There's a lot of the feminine energy right now coming into divine union, and they're building forth in the sense of saying, wow, this is vulnerable and it's taking a lot of courage, but this is the feminine energy saying, I am getting stronger every day. And this is the masculine feeling that same work, all of those doubts and fears, like crawling out of the woodwork, coming up, going, what if they change their mind? What if something goes awry? And what are these energies doing? What are these energies doing in the process of doing that? What are they saying? They're going, shh, shh. And this is the energy that observes. They observe those other thoughts and say, why are you afraid to heal? Right? Why are you afraid to heal? And this is a lot of that energy that is recognizing, right? They're recognizing instead of reacting, right? They're identifying, and they're coming into that space of restoring, right? Because especially, and I'm telling you even now, if there's a lot of that energy that's looking towards something and going, there's something coming up within me and I have no energetic evidence of it. This is the energy going, oh, look, there's the abandonment wound. There it is, right? like there's the energy. There it is, because that is that moment of catching those points in the self that we talked about this yesterday. The ego that sometimes moves us away from the things that we desire, because the ego is so keen to protect us, right? That sometimes the ego overcorrects. Like the ego overcorrects. The ego's like, no, instead of being like, yes, because that's a lot of that work that we see here. So we see even now that a lot of that energy coming into divine union is recognizing that deeper layer of healing in relationality to what needs to be addressed within the self in order to restore those energetic connections, right? Like, that's a problem with being in a healthy energetic connection. It is a lot of unpacking. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, I see even now that for so much of that energy in separation, there's something really difficult here. There's something really difficult, because I'm just identifying that for some of this energy right now, I just keep seeing that there's a lot of conversations that someone may be having in separation, in having to say to someone, I didn't want to energetically leave a situation, but I did what I felt was best or necessary in order to heal it. And I just see that even now. Like, I see a lot of that energy coming towards each other with a feeling of like, I want to say like, battle tested, like exhausted, like masculine's got their head down in a sense of defeat. Feminine's like holding her energetic sword, like panting, and they're both leaning against the door, And they're going, what brought you here? Because this is the feminine, both of these energies saying, I did everything I could do before I had to energetically move away from something, right? And so even in that moment of looking towards one another, and they're just like, I feel like these two are like gasping. I feel like these two are like gasping for air, specifically and particularly because this is the energy that's coming towards one another in a moment and looking and saying like, you can only, and again, looking and saying, you can only heal what someone says is there. Like I can almost see the energy in separation. Like you can only heal what someone says is there. You can't fix something if someone says it's not broken. Like this is a lot of that energy, just kind of like looking towards one another and finding that sense of like, I want to say like ride, delight, or humor in the process. And like I almost see the energy being like, you want to go get it? Like you want to go get out of here? You want to go get a cup of coffee? Sure, yes, let's do that. Like it's a little bit of that type of energy here. Continuing to get clarification between these cards, between our Seven of Cups in its reversal, in combination with our Nine of Pentacles in its upright. Can I get one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. Now, again, this is the thing about, I got to stress this, a lot of the energy in separation, I can see why there's a lot of this energy that's frustrated. Masculine, very emotional is what I'm seeing. Bearing in mind again, and here's the thing about this though, I feel like this is a lot of the masculine energy, feeling energetically emotional. Because again, and I need to stress this. This is a lot of the masculine energy that's also coming into that moment. I told you, a lot of this masculine energy here is like Mr. Fix-It. This is the masculine energy that almost looks towards the feminine in separation and says, listen, I can fix, I can fix anything. But I also need, I see the masculine almost saying, I need the feminine energy to prioritize that desire of allowing that space to fix something, as long as we're prioritizing the same energetic connection. Like I just see this here, and I can see masculine and feminine. And even now I can feel like some of these new energetic connections that are coming through. I told you, this is the energy that's like splitting hairs and being like, no, you know exactly what I'm talking about, which is the difference between, again, patience. But patience, like never-ending patience, so long as the priority is the same, right? And so I see that a lot of the masculine energy right now is looking towards feminine, because this is a masculine energy who's been wounded by feminine that felt like they were less energetically consistent, right? And this is what we talked about being consistent in the directionality of our choices. Because when feminine, and this is why it's so important for the feminine to come into a place of stability, because when feminine becomes too changeable, right? When feminine becomes too changeable, it creates a feeling of insecurity in masculine, because masculine feels like they're walking on eggshells. They can't, it's like the ocean that like knocks you over, because you can't predicate if the wave is going to be big or small, right? So this is a masculine saying, I'm just looking for a feminine that's able to come into a point of energetic consistency. That ability of regulating one's own energetic waves, right? So that's what a lot of the masculine energy in separation is seeking right now. And this is why I see even now, a lot of the masculine energy in separation feels tempest tossed, right? Because if that's masculine that was navigating feminine energy, that hasn't learned to balance one's own like waves, it can create a space of the masculine that feels energetically or emotionally exhausted trying to keep up with the feminine. Well, I see a lot of the feminine energy in separation coming out of those modalities of the masculine that may, again, have a lot of emotionality for feminine. But having a lot of emotionality for feminine does not mean the same thing as desiring the same thing as feminine, right? Like you could have a lot of emotionality towards someone, but if you want something different than someone wants, it doesn't matter what your emotions are, because those emotions become an anchor instead of wings. So we see even now, do you see how these energies are finding one another? And even in the articulation of expressing the feminine saying, yes, I was trying to be very consistent. I was trying to be very consistent on what I wanted. And I noticed their inconsistencies. I noticed that we were starting to stray away from the manifestation goal, and I didn't allow that to occur. I just walked away, right? And that's a feminine saying, I can be very patient so long as we're prioritizing the same things, right? Eye on the prize of the manifestation, and the prize being partnership. So this is masculine meeting feminine that has that ability of saying, I can be very consistent, except if someone is not being consistent to me. And so this is masculine in separation saying, I can be very consistent so long as the feminine counterpart is one that has learned how to navigate their own energetic consistency. And what do we find in this modality? Breakthroughs. This is what the energy is doing right now, coming into divine union. Right? A lot of this energy is looking at the fact that they're coming into divine union and they're building into that sense of appreciation. Feminine saying to themselves, I am getting stronger every day, is the indication of a feminine that says, I am able to maintain energetic balance. I stay in alignment with my highest version of self, regardless of how my present version of self feels. Regardless of how the present version of self feels. The higher version of self takes the wheel, right? The higher version of self takes the wheel, especially on the days that the lower version of self wants to grab a sword and start swinging, right? Well, for masculine, this is a lot of the masculine coming into that modality. And what does the masculine say? When I can walk across my emotionality, when I can navigate my emotional self, when I can feel my feelings and not get overrun by them, I can walk across the plane of my emotional self, then I can do anything, right? So we see even now that these are the energies that are working on coming into their highest version of self, by recognizing what it is that they need to work upon in the process. And that is the prioritization of coming into their highest version of self as it relates to the energetic connection. This is the energy that we see that is occurring right now for the energy deep within divine union, right? Because for the energy deep within divine union, that ability of recognizing and identifying that work, it's hard, it's difficult. It's requiring some of those days. It's harder than others. But this is the energy that doesn't ask themselves, doesn't focus on what feels easy. You recognize and you make the priority that you make, and then you work towards it. And that sense of setting the energetic priority, that is where you put your valuation point. And for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, that ability of creating balance, that is what the prioritization is, because that is the energy that prioritizes balance above everything. And so that ability of doing so, when you care, right? When you care for something, when you care for someone, that is the gift that you create. You create stability underneath their feet, right? And so that ability of creating that stability, this is the energy within divine union that says, regardless of the rockiness, right? Like, regardless of the rockiness that you feel in your own self, when you're focusing on what it is that you're prioritizing, you don't let that instability affect that stability, right? And that is the energy deep within divine union. Continuing to get clarification here between our King of Cups in its reversal and our Ace of Cups in its upright. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Nine of Wands in its reversal. Some days it's easier than others. Some days it's easier than others. Some days it feels like a breeze. Some days it feels like a gale. But that ability of doing what one needs to maintain that energetic stability, that is the gift of love that we create for those we care about. And we do it, when we do it, not only do we do it, but we try to do it in such a way that it feels effortless, that it feels like we're not even thinking about it, right? You say, oh no, it's no trouble at all, even if it feels like it's energetically breaking your back, because when you carry that weight, the gift to be able to be the person to create that sense of balance, it doesn't matter what it costs, because the worth and the value is the love that is created in maintaining that energetic balance. So for a lot of the energy within divine union, observing that, like that is how that energy functions. And this is a lot of the energy coming into divine union right now that is recognizing the integrity, the force behind building into that balance, right? It's not just something where if it's not easy, you depart and you go, oh, like it's not that it's not that sense of someone making it energetically easy for you. It's a gift we give each other in creating that stability for one another. And so we see even now that a lot of that energy coming into divine union right now is learning to do something in a way that's hard for them in the service of the energetic union, right? And that's not, I need to stress this isn't the energy that is changing themselves in a point, like you don't want to, if you do that and you don't want to do it, you're gonna be like, this stinks, right? like this is not the energy being like, fine. Like this is the energy that recognizes and identifies that and feels joy in the process of doing this. Because that is the energy that feels like in the process of doing that, they come into alignment with their highest version of self, right? That they're finding themselves on the pathwork of doing that process. And so we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that sense of saying, you know, like this, like that breakthrough point, that point of foundation, that is the energy that works so hard in such a way. This is the energy that's now looking at their past with more clarity. And they're seeing, again, having, and I need to stress this, if you're coming into divine union and then you're suddenly looking back and you're having regret for past versions of self, congratulations. Because if you're doing that, you recognize and identify that you've changed. And if you're changing, it means that you've already changed. If you already can see something and you're affirming to be able to be in that point of being better, like even in that state, like this is the energy that's already in that process. And you're not trying, you're being. So I want you to hold grace for those past versions of self, especially, again, remembering that perfection is an aspiration. It's never something that we reach. We reach for it, but we also identify that we'll never clasp it. While for the energy in separation, I see even now, you know, and this is, I need to stress this. You have to see, do you see what's happening here? Look what's happening for the masculine energy in separation. What happens when the feminine is too changeable, right? This is masculine in separation saying to feminine, it felt like nothing I did was ever right. It felt like every time I came into a space of doing what I thought they wanted, that I was doing it wrong. It felt like if I did the thing that was asked for, then suddenly it was something else, right? So this is the masculine that feels that emotional exhaustion of being tempest tossed in separation, because this is the masculine saying, I could not find the consistency in what was required to energetically maintain balance with the feminine, even if they desired that aspiration of doing so. Like when we're not in that point of balance, when we recognize, like that can feel very hard for masculine, because that's almost the masculine saying, I kept on trying to make the mark, but the mark kept moving, right? While for feminine, this is feminine potentially saying, I was being very energetically consistent. I knew what I wanted in a partnership, but it felt like as we started to move towards it, the masculine started to energetically deviate away from that. And I started to try to bring it up towards them. And the masculine insisted that they didn't see what I was talking about. And so that's the feminine going, that was a painful moment because I realized that we were moving down different directions. And also I could not tell if the masculine was aware that what they were articulating was not the same as what we articulated we desired with one another, or if that was the energy. And this is the feminine coming from a point of caution saying to masculine, I still can't tell if that person was aware of the fact that they were moving off of their energetic mark, or if they were perfectly aware of it and they just didn't want to articulate upon it, right? So we see even now, look at these energies coming into energetic union. Masculine finding the finding the stable feminine that says, I know, I keep my eye on the horizon, I don't allow for that deviation point. And this is masculine saying, I'm looking for the I'm looking for the feminine that is able to focus and stay on course in relationality to what we're trying to head towards. So we see even now, like, these are energies, new potential connections that are happening right now in separation. Further clarification between our Ace of Cups in its upright in combination with our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. Oh, may I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 10 of Wands in its upright. This is hard work, right? This is hard work. This is rigor, right? And so what we see right now is these are energies that are coming towards one another in separation, exhausted. Like, I want to say, like, they're energetically exhausted. But I need to stress this. There's something about the recognition point of the mutual exhaustion that is building the energetic connection. Because if this is the energetic energy that is exhausted, exhaustion is the demarcation of an energy that was trying. And not even trying, but doing, right? So this isn't the energy that is walking away from something and going, I don't know what happened. This is energy that's coming towards each other and being very articulate and being like, I did everything I could. Right? Like this isn't the energy going, I don't know what happened there. This is a lot of the energy being like, I did everything I could. Right? Like, and so we see even now that articulation, even articulating what, like, the ability to try to build something forth, like, this is that sense of, like, speaking towards one another. And in the act of speaking towards what one has experienced, you build that same sense of similarity, because this is finding someone who is energetically journeying in the same direction, because they're on the same path. While for masculine and feminine energy, coming into divine union, this is the energy that is moving deeper into divine union, and it feels harder than anything that they've done before, because this is the energy that is prioritizing the partnership like no other. And in the process of prioritizing the partnership, we're also identifying and recognizing that this is the energy that is having the breakthroughs of the self, because even in the process of, again, I need to stress this isn't energy saying, I will do anything to maintain the energetic connection, right? This is the energy that feels that sense or that space of moving away from the past version of self, because coming into that space of what it is that you're creating with another brings you closer to the self in the process. Right? Like, this is that openness and that flower that opens, that allows us to be our most authentic self, because the valuation of what you prioritize, you hold the same things dear, right? While for masculine and feminine, deep within divine union, this is one of those days that just feels hard, because being able to maintain that energetic stability. Some days are harder than others, but this is the energy that prioritizes stability. And when we prioritize stability, it doesn't matter, like, how much we're knocked around in the process, because we're not paying attention to what's happening to ourselves. We just keep our focus on the stability that we're creating. Continuing to get clarification between our 9 of Wands in its reversal in combination with our 10 of Wands in its upright. Final card for today's spread is we have here our 4 of Pentacles in its reversal. And there's a lot, I just see it even now, a lot of this energy right now, putting that focus in, putting that prioritization in place, allowing for that sense or space of feeling that you're doing everything that you energetically can. And on some days, I will stress this, on some days it feels like the ability to maintain energetic balance requires everything that we have to give, right? It requires every inch. Today's one of those days, right? It feels like it's energetically exhaustive. But when you're in that modality of like building into a point of stability, like it doesn't energetically matter, because again, that valuation point of what it takes isn't the matter at hand. All that matters, the love of creating that stabilization point, is what you are valuing, right? While for masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is the energy that is like looking towards something in a way that they haven't before. Because if this is energy that was feeling in the past, like either the energy that said that recognition point, can you recognize that you can't do that alone? Like you can't do that type of work alone. So if this is the energy that felt like they were always failing in that way, trying to take on someone else's work for them, like that sense of like always leaning in and never feeling like it was energetically enough, you know, that's that moment of recognizing that that point of prioritizing what you hold dear, like that is something that you cannot fake. It has to be held dearly. And so we see even now, this is why this energy coming into that space of someone that is able, and again, this is masculine working to do that, feeling clumsy as they go. Feminine saying to masculine, it doesn't matter how clumsy you are, I can help build that stability, so long as I know that your focus is also on the same thing that I'm trying to do, right? These are the energies that lift each other up on the way, because this is the energy that says that it doesn't, like that weight, like that heaviness is lighter than air, because that is the energy that says I recognize and value that does not feel like something I'm surrendering. It feels like I'm something that I'm letting go, and I'm letting go of that. And when you let go of something, you become lighter than air. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is reprioritizing in such a way that they're looking back and being like, I can't believe I valued that in the first place. Like this is the energy that's like reprioritizing or redistributing to a certain extent, because this is the energy that is feeling that valuation point and recognizing and prioritizing what it takes to be able to build forth into that energetic connection. While for masculine and feminine in separation right now, I see a lot of energetic breakthroughs right now, looking towards one another and saying, what do you hold dear? What do you value? What do you prioritize? Tell me about that story of what you held on to. And I see even now, like the reason some of this energy is coming towards one another, and you know, it feels frustrating, because I see this energy almost saying to one another, tell me like what you lost in the way of trying to find love, right? And this is the energy I told you coming towards one another in a moment of exhaustion, because this is a lot of that energy that doesn't look at those modalities as a victory. They look at them as a frustrating reality, right? This isn't the energy that moves, that capers joyfully and says like, yeah, I'm glad to be free of it. Like this is a lot of that energy saying, I did everything I could do, and until finally there was nothing left that could be done, right? And that's a lot of the energy that holds each other's hands along the way and builds into a space of an authentic relationship that appreciates being able to find each other where you found one another, right? Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is, we've got here our Two of Wands in its upright. So, you know, I see even now like, you know, issues around communication, you know, issues like even here, I see like, you know, there's a lot of this sense or this anxiety as it relates to like what one aspires versus what one sees right now, you know? And that's why I see even now, I have to stress this, a lot of the energy working in this modality, you know, they're not allowing themselves to get overwhelmed by what they energetically see, right? You know, because again, I want to say there's something really important I'm seeing that's happening across all of those frequencies, which is again, it feel like it's coming through as the feeling that it feels indulgent to grieve, right? It feels indulgent to grieve, because when you're in that space, it doesn't heal anything, right? Like it doesn't like coming into that space of like, you know, speaking about a point of sadness. It's like I just see a lot of this energy right now, just kind of like not having that modality, just moving very effortlessly into the next thing, right? Because when you're in that space where there's so much to be done, you know, you don't, like, again, you don't have that time to energetically unpack the trauma, right? And so we see even now that a lot of that work that's happening here, it feels so, I mean, again, in separation, you know, even being able to articulate upon that, like it feels like like a lot of those connection points feels like that is the point of catharsis, somewhere that creates that space that you can do so, right? While for them energy right now coming into divine union, this is a lot of that energy that's now seeing something that you might not be able to have seen before. And that's why I'm going to say again, listen, you cannot, if you're reaching a point of understanding on your own path work beyond what you could see before, I want you to hold space and grace for the gift of being able to have that. Because I always like to point this out, being able to look back and have a point of self-correction is one of the greatest gifts that we can have. That space of regret is the energy, it's holy, because that ability of looking back on something and wishing that you could do something different means that you already are, right? Making sure that you're not just coming into that space of bemoaning, but coming into that space of purpose. And a lot of that energy right now is building upon that as they build into like divine union. While for the energy right now, deep within divine union, the energy deep within divine union is what's difficult about this is a lot of energy like you don't know what's beyond the horizon, because you're kind of leading that you're leading that space. Like you just keep one's own intention and you energetically hope for the best. And honestly, like that's the best that you can do on some days, right? So I want to say again, if you're in that space where you're taking a deep breath and you're taking those steps forward, even if today, like just staying in status quo, like I need to point this out, like that is totally acceptable as an amplification point. You are already exceptional if you're staying energetically balanced. Remember that. Anything else is extra. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving these messages. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. Please keep in mind when you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Also, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we get started on our personal readings for today. First and foremost, I'd like to remind all of you that our tarot class, our next tarot class, is going to be held tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our journey and study into the tarot. Sorry, just a moment. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the Lover's card. I am so excited to be able to offer this or teach this class because it's the second or completion point of our tarot journey. So we've just gone through the first part of our tarot journey. The Lover's card will now be starting the second cycle. If you would like to become a part of that class program, all you need to do is head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access and entry into our class tomorrow. You will also have access, if you become a paid subscriber, to our full repository of recordings and course materials. So if you've missed any of our previous classes, you still have ample opportunity to catch up. You might not be able to catch up to where we are by tomorrow, but I do give recaps in each one of the classes. So I'll definitely be giving a recap on what we've studied thus far. Also, you will have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we've learned thus far. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a complimentary one-on-one mentorship class with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to focus on in these classes was making them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Also, I want to let you know that if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, if you head over to our Discord channel, in our Discord channel, you will find a special coupon code which will grant you an additional discount to those classes. So make sure that you grab that if you'd like to become a part of that class program. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings and services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my live schedule. You will also be notified to our giveaways. Speaking of giveaways, we have announced the winner for our September giveaway. We are now in the process of having our October giveaway. If you would like to enter to win a free private tarot reading with me, go ahead and head to the link tree in my bio. There is a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that travel survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway. But if you would like to increase your chances of winning, go ahead and forward that survey to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I will be giving away a reading not only to the person that wins, but also to the person who referred them. So thank you if you've already entered, and I wish you the best of luck of winning this month. Finally, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I now also offer mentorship classes. These are classes that are focused on whatever area of personal growth or spiritual development you are most interested in learning more about. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. You can purchase those on an individual level or as a monthly class series, though that is class that you can have on a weekly or bi-weekly level, depending on what your schedule permits. Also, for my clients that are seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to be offering weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, 1 per week or bi-weekly as your schedule allows, so that you can stay more consistent on your own personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again